Depends on if we're already tired of each other. Okay, so we're going, and this is happening. Good afternoon, Morgan.
Good afternoon, Mary.
Morgan Lee McDonald.
That is my name.
This is Morgan Lee McDonald. My name is Mary Michelle Baghdadi. And we're going to sit here for about 2.5 hours and chat about independent filmmaking, each other, and our chemistry.
Some of my favorite subjects.
And how HFC is going and Shelter and your role in that. How's that sound?
Sounds great. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. My
Thank
schedule
you
is
for
wide open.
Kali and Greg and Kiana for being here, and Morgan Ritchie when she arrives, and anyone who has to go to the bathroom. So we'll just jump right in.
Okay.
We're at HFC, the studio on Wailea. It's a pretty nice 1,000 square foot studio where we host independent filmmakers, and we run workshops. We're doing a short film right now called Shelter. And Morgan Lee McDonald is a part of that. Do you want to introduce yourself? What do you do on Island?
My name is Morgan Lee McDonald. I feel like I don't know what to do with my hands now.
Improv it.
Just discuss in different ways so you can't cut this out of my context. You ever watch The Bachelor and you're like, wow, this is so edited incorrectly?
I try to avoid it.
I feel like if I was ever on that show, I'd be like talking like this the whole time, so you can't take me out of context. Like, she said things like
Continuity's wrong.
Yeah, she was talking at a different time. So on
What's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah, my name is Morgan Lee McDonald. I've been on Island. It's my 5th year. I was traveling for the past year and came back. And actually, I joined HFC right before I left. I went to school out here, graduated film and sculpture, double major. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for paying for that. But HFC was something that I signed up for to be a part of the film community on the island. Mm-hmm. And when I was traveling, I kept getting all these emails. They're like, come out here and be a part of this. Yeah. And Mary was emailing me while I was traveling the world.
Hey, Morgan.
Yeah. And I'm like having FOMO. And so when I got back to the island, I got this email that said that there's this awesome opportunity where you can audition and come up with a role to portray something that you don't feel like it's being portrayed properly. So you came up with the idea and they were going to make this production. And I was like, well, that's cool because I don't feel like I've ever been a character that's been portrayed. I'm very unique, so I should totally audition. So they have me on film. And it was very nerve-wracking. It was my first real audition, actually.
Your first audition?
Yeah, I walked in and was standing outside of this actual location and had a little bit of a panic attack before I walked in. I was like, oh, okay, you got this, girl.
Psyching yourself up.
Yeah, don't be nervous. I was dead ass nervous.
So rewind. This was your first audition.
Yeah.
So how many films have you been a part of?
I've been producer and director. I've acted in my own film, but this was all student productions at UH.
Yeah.
And so the only actual outside of school production I've been a part of is called Shelter.
Oh, nice plug.
Yeah, so this is my first time being in front of the camera, not having any control of what's being done. Mm-hmm. It is probably the most vulnerable I've ever felt, which I very much enjoy and am terrified of at the same time.
Is that your goal, at least in the short term, to be an actor?
I thought you were going to say to be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable.
That's my goal in life, just to be a vulnerable person. No, I think acting is, it's the most authentic opportunity there is that I've encountered to tell stories, especially when you're not in control, like the director has all the control. When you're acting, you have so much trust in between each party that, I am trusting the DP to get me to look good, or to look in a way that
he does.
It tells the story properly. Because there is all that ego involved where I'm like, do I look good though? Really? Camera check. But so yeah, being a part of something in front of camera, being an actor, it's I think as a little kid, I always wanted to do that, but I had to get over the self-doubt chapter.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be authentic and vulnerable, and that was a long journey for me to get there.
Yeah. So I have the benefit of knowing you a little bit better than anyone who's listening and watching. So I know that you're a comedian.
I do
About an
stand
hour
up,
ago,
yeah.
you said something really nice about yourself, and that was the title that you give yourself. Do you remember?
Yeah, storyteller.
Storyteller.
I think that's what I aim to be, aim to do. I think that any of us who are telling stories, that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's not just creating something entertaining. It's not just, I mean, all of those things are satisfying when you can watch something and be thoroughly entertained. But I think the film medium is a way to connect on a level that's real and authentic, and your vision can be handed to someone and you don't get to control how they react to that. Because based on their life, their story, their experiences, you're going to have unexpected raw emotion that's built up and brought out.
Reactions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so beautiful.
So as an actor, director, producer, you kind of do the groundwork and then you hand over your vision to the audience member.
Totally. It's like having a baby that you get to
Then donate.
incubate it, make it, and then once you put it out in the world, you don't get to control what it turns into.
Right.
And I think especially with the film that we're making, it's going to be a beast of its own. It's going to create
a lot, yeah.
a conversation. It's going to do a lot of things that I don't have control over. So I just have to make sure that what I'm putting in is real and thought out and authentic. So
I want to touch on Shelter in a little bit, but again, knowing you a little bit, you're a comedian. How do you feel you're being vulnerable as a comedian? Is that possible to be kind of sensitive and vulnerable, or is that entirely based in acting?
I think with comedy, the most funny stuff I've ever encountered in life has been relatable content, relatable things, where you're watching something or hearing a story being told, and you're sitting there looking at your partner or your person, and you're like, how the heck do they know about that? You're like, I too experienced that weird stuff, and thank you for putting it out there.
Yeah.
So there's, when it's real, like I think I keep saying authentic because that's what the best stories are. It's when you're telling your perspective and it's so true that someone else is sitting there like, that's true for me too. That's creepy that you were there in the bathroom with me.
How often do you perform?
I get that question a lot. I also have a lot of friends who are like, oh, when's the next time you're going on stage? I want to come support you. And it's like, I don't want you to be there. Because I think I treat my comedy as sort of like a Dear Diary moment where I go up and I'm like, this is some real stuff that happened to me. And I just need to talk about it for a second.
So maybe having that anonymous audience is a little safer for you.
I've
so in a sense,
learned-
you're being incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And a little private.
I've definitely learned that Hawaii in itself is not an anonymous place. You cannot go up on stage, talk about things like a Dear Diary, and walk off and not be called a butthole girl later on.
I hope it's not too personal experience.
I just got to the point where if I'm going to do this, I have to do it shamelessly. I have to be 100% myself, and I cannot apologize. Like, I remember doing comedy and kept thinking, like, God, if my grandma sees this, I'm going to be in so much trouble. And then when my grandma died, I'm like, I can say anything now. Like, I'm clean. I mean, what I say on stage isn't always clean, but it's safe.
From grandma.
Yeah, she's, thanks, Nana. I miss you, but God, you're not here to hear this. But I think that's what the best stories are. It's when you're shamelessly telling something that's real because it has to be said. Because if you don't say it, you're not living your full story.
How do you gauge if a story is kind of that target, authentic or relatable?
I mean, I think on a daily basis, weird stuff happens to me, and I don't know if it happens to everyone else that way. So as far as
You write it down, or you like? voice
yeah, I mean,
record?
my
Yeah.
notes, I'll write down, and the worst part is the craft of learning how to write it down so that it translates to the joke later on.
Cool,
So
for
out
the
of
reaction,
context, I can
yeah.
be like, oh, okay, yeah, turtle socks. That's what I'm talking about. But half the time I read it, I'm like, turtle socks? What does that even mean?
There's a little bit of like mistranslation
yeah,
between.
yeah. It's got to be. It's got to be something that you feel like if someone else saw it happen, you'd have that eye contact moment where you're like, thank God we both saw that. Like yesterday, I was walking home from the beach and I told a friend of mine, I was like, hey man, I got a good parking space. You should take my parking spot. And he's looking at me like, yeah, sure. And then he walked straight into a tree. But he's a big, husky guy. So when he walked into that tree, he ended up hugging it. It's full on bear hug moment. And then looked me in the eyes. And we both had a thing where we looked around to see if anyone else had seen it, and no one did. So it was just us and him hugging a tree.
Did he?
And then it turned out I couldn't find my parking spot. So it was just him following me behind with me being like, this is my car. And I tried to open 3 white cars, were not mine. So both of us had a moment where we're like, thank God no one saw that. We were both here for each other. Isn't this going to be funny to tell someone later? Which it's not. It's only funny when you're there. And I think that's the craft of comedian. It's being able to tell you something that you had to be there and you weren't there.
But we were all there, and we all had that moment. Yeah. Eventually,
Right.
at some point.
Exactly.
Dang,
So it's
that
a
was
craft.
intense. I feel like I was there.
I hope I'm like Bill. I told a story about you.
His name was Bill.
His name's Bill. Billy.
Bill.
Yeah.
That had to have been cover for something.
God, Billy. He walked straight into that tree. And then he apologized with a hug. Sorry.
I feel like I'd be you in that situation though, looking for my car.
Yeah.
Not. I wonder if there's a Billy out there who would relate to.
The best part
I
is
was Billy.
when you get into
smacked
someone's
into the
car
tree.
and you think it's your car.
You got into the door?
No, luckily they were locked and they didn't unlock when I tried.
But you got the key through.
It's several times. I was like, this is not working. Some lady in the car is like, this is not your vehicle. Can you stop trying to open my car? She's like, I'm trying to change out of my bathing suit. Okay. Nice to see you, Mary.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, saw ya. Love that bikini. That's a nice color for you. Really brings out your eyes.
So the relatable content is you had to have been there to see Billy smacking into the tree. But as a comedian, able to tell that story, even if it's highly specific.
Yeah, and I think the best part is
bringing people along, storytelling.
Yeah, and like with comedy, I've learned that there's this craft where you can say anything. It doesn't matter. As long as when you get off that stage at the very end, you bring in everything that you've said. So
True.
in one sentence, if you can talk about Billy, trees, and a bathing suit, all of a sudden you've brought it all back together.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
reminded about how funny that first joke was.
Yes.
How terribly long it took you to the end. Finally, this is over. Okay. we got it.
Comedy is a formula. It's
Yeah.
super challenging to get people to that place.
Yeah. And you can do it all right. And if someone in the audience doesn't have anything to do with what you're saying, they have no relation to it, it's going to go over their head and not be funny.
Do you feel like, if there's 100 people in the audience and 10 of them didn't get the joke, is it still worth it? Do you disregard them, or do you
I think, and that's the thing about the difference between someone who goes up on stage with jokes and me, who's a true comedian.
Sorry, that wasn't funny.
I don't know if I'm doing it for the jokes. Like if someone else doesn't laugh, I still went up and got over the fear of stage fright. I went up and did it. And I'm doing it for the laughs. I love the laugh. It makes me happier than anything I can explain when someone else thinks what I said is funny when I know it really was. But that's the cool thing about sense of humor. It's not going to work for everybody. Everyone has their own weird
style,
quirks. I love the really quiet person, who like cracks up so hard at something unexpected.
Yeah.
And I had no idea why they thought that was funny.
Like, noted.
Yeah. Weird reaction.
Got the quiet one.
Loved that. Or like when someone's laugh is so contagious that they just make other people laugh. They're like not laughing at what you said, sir.
Yeah,
that was just a weird chuckle. I love that. And I think that's that's what needs to happen more. You know, you need to have more content that's not just being put out there for likes or whatever. It's stories that are being told, things that are relatable, things that are happening every day, and it's creating more platforms for discussion. And when it's funny, it's even better. Like if you can laugh about something that's hard to deal with, that's what most of my jokes are. It's like I had my sister said this to me once. So the point is, the hardest things that have happened in my life, I consider good material because it makes people laugh because I need to laugh about it. And I had a Christmas one time. My younger sister came to me and she was like, you know, Morgan, you just weren't very funny this year. I'm like, okay.
Was that recently?
It was like 2 or 3 years ago. But I was so happy, you know, life was going really well. I think that's why it wasn't funny. Because I was like, well, sister, I'm doing quite well. I'm not depressed. I don't have any heartbreak going on. So let me just, she was like, make sure that next year you come back with better material. Oh, yeah.
So life's got
I got you. Let's go through some breakups. I'll come back with some chuckles for you, sis. But it's real. It's like when things are going really well, as a comedian, I don't know if I'm that funny. Because I can turn things that I need to talk about into a platform where it's like, bro, we need to discuss this. Like,
This did happen to me.
yeah. And it continues to happen. I feel like if I talk about it to a bunch of strangers late at night, maybe this will change.
How long have you been a comedian?
My whole life. No, I'd say
Born into it.
the first time I ever did stand-up comedy and went on stage, it was actually here on Island. But it all started when I was in New York City. So I was living in New York City, and my neighbor who lived below me was actually a comedian.
Yeah.
And I'd say all of the things that people say to me now, where it's like, hey, man, why don't you tell me when you go up? Like, I want to hear your comedy. I want to support you. You're so funny. And so he told me he was going up one day at this place called the Comedy Factory or something. No, it's something, it's Laugh Factory. No, it's not. It's irrelevant what it's called. The point is, I go to this place. It was right across the street from my apartment. And he was awful. It was the most terrible performance I've ever seen in my life. The only reason people were laughing was because he was so awkward that you're like laughing because you had to laugh. It's awful.
That's painful.
But when those things happen, you're sitting there like, oh, I could do this. I could do that so much better.
Yeah.
And
How many years ago was that? Like 5?
that was in 2013.
2013. 7.
And so I, afterwards, you know, was having some conversations with a bunch of comedians, and one of the guys said, hey, you should sign a napkin contract. And I'm like,
oh,
weird, what? And apparently they have these things where they'll give you a napkin, they write out a contract that within a year you're going to come up and perform.
At this particular venue. Okay.
So I signed this contract, and I never did. I ended up leaving New York. I moved to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it ate away at my soul. Like every day I'd think, you're a liar, you know? You sign a contract on a napkin and your word is worth nothing.
That's true vulnerability.
Yeah, I was like,
I can't even live up to the napkin.
yeah, if you can't do this one thing, who are you gonna be when you grow up? And I wanted to be me. So when I was at Anna O'Brien's,
Yep.
they do a comedy show on Wednesday nights,
Yep.
and a friend of mine signed me up without asking. And we went to go see the comedy show.
On a napkin or
No,
on a
but I
sign-up
told her
sheet.
the napkin story.
Yeah.
So she was like,
She was looking
it's
at
now or never. Are you a liar or are you a woman of your word? So, yeah, she ended up giving me 0 notice, signed me up. The guy comes over, he's like, you're next. I chugged my beer, took a shot because I was terrified. I was probably hyperventilating, freaking out. And then another person went up. I was getting nervous again. I took another shot. Another person went up. And by the time that it was actually my turn, he's like, all right, you're next. I'm like, this was like 5 shots ago, sir. Like, I'm hammered. I can barely see straight, let alone. So I go to the bathroom like any comedian should. And I look myself in the mirror and I'm like, you got this. This is your moment. You're drunk. You're a mess. But we got to do this. You're a woman of your word. You signed that napkin contract. And then I dropped my phone in the toilet. which is
Happens.
where I wrote down all my jokes.
Oh,
So then I'm having even more of a like panic attack. I'm like, you
someone have a
can't
bag of
even
rice.
do one thing
San
straight.
O'Brien's in Honolulu. Someone has a bag of rice.
Yeah. So ended up
What?
going up, and she gives me her phone. I write down as many jokes as I could think of that I had written down over as much time as I could. I get up on stage, and her phone locks.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, girl, I need your code. And she's like, it's 2234.
This is
On stage. And I'm like, anytime I ran out of like an idea of what to do, I'd just be like, what's the code?
yes.
And then I'd be like, 2234. And everyone would laugh. And it was the first time I'd ever gone up stage. I felt like I could do this. I finally did it. I didn't remember any of it. I was blacked out the next day. I was like so hungover.
How'd it go?
But people said I did well.
Yeah.
And I realized like that's not something you get to just go up and do and be good at.
right.
Like
right.
you have to get over the fear. You have to prepare your material. You have to have stories.
Get a
to
waterproof
tell.
phone case.
Yeah, it's a freaking craft, and I was craftless.
That's awesome.
I just thought of mac and cheese when I said that. I was like, Kraft mac and cheese, sponsor me.
That's relatable though with the phone locking. Yeah.
Yeah, 2234.
It sounds like you're
hope she
kind of
changed it.
interested in like bringing in audience participation, and
Yeah,
that was something you did with the mic
and I think the
and the
biggest
phone locking.
thing about comedy that I took up on stage every time I went up there is that I didn't want to disrespect someone. I didn't want to target someone in my audience and make them feel belittled or
Yeah.
less than. I wanted to talk about things that needed to be discussed. And I mentioned my grandparents, but like that was a huge thing to overcome. Being able to go up on stage and be shameless about what I was talking about. It's weird. Like when I'm talking with my friends, I could talk about anything.
Yeah.
And have confidence in what I'm saying and feel like I have control over my words. But as soon as I got on stage, it's like, don't say anything your dad doesn't want to hear you say. And then, of course, I would say so many things that I hope my dad never heard me say.
Yep.
But
Are you willing to turn it back on yourself and kind of be that target? You didn't want to belittle anyone or disrespect, but you're willing to kind of put yourself out there and maybe disrespect yourself a little bit, like
Yes.
talk about humiliating experiences.
I think yes. But it also has to be not self-deprecating in a way that is disrespectful to me as a human being.
And what you stand for. Yeah.
Like, I used to be a heavier set person, and I have some jokes that have to do about my weight, but I don't want to ever go up on stage and talk about weight as a thing that can control
Centers
your
around- yeah,
power
yeah.
who you are, because that's not something I believe.
right.
Did my self-confidence during that time give me a
Change,
lot of
yeah,
good
yeah.
material for jokes? Yes, of course. But
So your sister also said 3 Christmases ago, like, you're looking good.
yeah, like you're very skinny.
Let's
Why
work on
don't you
that.
get fat again? Yeah, that's no. I mean, and there's got to be that line, I think, with comedians where if you're gonna talk about something, you're doing it for a reason, not just to get laughs.
Yeah.
Because if you can talk about difficult subjects on stage.
Yeah.
And I truly believe comedy is a craft that should have no limits, where you should be able to go up on stage, talk about anything, and it should be a platform for an open
Space.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're holding space for
Yeah.
a subject,
Yeah.
and the only way to talk about
Let's get
something
loose
is-
about it. Let's
Yeah.
like find some common ground.
But is it scary being the face of? I mean, I have told some jokes that then on the street I have been recognized, and they're like, "It's the butthole girl," and I've been told that on the street where the girl comes over and she's like, "Hey, you're the butthole girl," and I'm like, "In no way is that who I am." My name is Morgan. Not that I need the
rebrand
rest of the world to be, now I'm the butthole girl on the podcast. That's
say
great.
next time, like, as long as you don't know the code.
But it's like, that was taken out
2, 3,
of context because, I talked about things that were real. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to have to tell these people now, I had surgery, and it's weird. You could talk about your shoulder surgery and, not a problem.
Yeah.
You talk about your butthole surgery, and all of a sudden you're the butthole
Almost
girl.
inauthentic.
But I don't have any shame in it because if I create a taboo reaction to something that was seriously like physical, emotional journey
Yeah.
that I had to go through,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, that's not real. That's not vulnerable. That's putting on a face as if
it's not ownership, and that's
exactly. And I think if you're going to live your truth, you have to do it shamelessly. You have to realize that, like, we all have buttholes.
Some of them just need surgery.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, guys. The human body will fail you.
Thank you for that.
Literally,
I
my
really needed to
audition
hear
for
that.
this film,
Yeah.
I talked about my butthole.
For Birdie.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
so
were
that's
like,
a great segue.
Yeah, they were like, tell us about some of your comedy. And I was like, great, I can't think of anything appropriate except for lovely.
So really, really great segue actually
Thank you.
into three, that one.
Yeah.
Into Shelter, the HFC Ohana production. So you auditioned your character initially as who and what?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about this was that I really need your straw. This is actually my straw. Have some. The concept of come and audition with a character that hasn't been done before that you want to portray was super inspiring. I think that is something that should be more continually approached and open opportunities for people to come in and say, hey, I want to portray something I haven't done before, or I have a character that I see on a regular basis but I've never seen on screen. We should be telling stories like that more often.
Yeah.
And so I was really enthusiastic. I was terrified to audition. I had a panic attack outside, but I felt like it was important and I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I actually want to congratulate you guys on creating that platform where
Thank you.
people in the community had a way to get involved. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so for people who don't know, we started this process actually a little backwards. We auditioned the characters first before we wrote the script. And so we did kind of a call to audition with those characters. And so that's what you're talking about is you came in with this certain idea of,
Right.
Did your character have a name or
No,
they named you
I
Birdie
think
Lady later?
because it was my first audition, I kind of removed myself from the process. Like, I was like, physically, you're going to go do this. Emotionally, we're not going to talk about it because you're nervous and scared. But no, I think it was more about the act of doing it. It was like in those beginning stages of comedy, it was less about what I said on stage. It was more the fact that I got up there and did it.
And did it, yeah.
And that's how I approached this. I was scared, and so I didn't do the big research of creating the character like a lot of the other actors and people did.
Yeah.
I sort of went in and just wanted to checkmark the accomplishment of auditioning
Yeah.
and putting myself out there. And then when they asked me what kind of character I wanted to portray, I really considered, who I had seen on films and related to, and then who I had seen myself as in my life, and who maybe I wanted to see on screen. And I think I said something like, an independent female whose truth, like what she says, is blunt and honest, but you respect that about her, which I think, female characters in history have been a little bit less than what we deserve.
Yep.
And we're changing. Times are changing. I mean, you see a lot of films out there that are great and strong, wonderfully written characters. I don't know if my character in this film is what I described, which I almost am grateful for because it takes away me from the dynamic. It's me creating,
bouncing back with the writers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, giving the department of the writing section that freedom to go where they are inspired to lead.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being an actor, where you can sometimes have control over that,
Right.
or you have to relinquish control and just be vulnerable and
Right.
authentic.
There's that word again.
Love that word.
So, and you and I have actually, more than any of the actors have
Hung out.
hung out, been friends, have talked on the phone a lot actually about your character.
I am a caller, not a texter.
I've sensed that. She's not texting me back. Call her. You called me a couple times, like pretty much once a month, only because it was over Christmas.
Yeah.
And
We did have, our timeline was over a vacation time, which is an interesting
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
Less rehearsal, more individual exploration, I guess.
More moving target. Let's see
Yeah.
if this is gonna happen.
But that
type.
shows, I think that's cool because it shows so much trust in all the different
Yep.
like categories of responsibilities. You've got so many people collaborating together that you're like, you got this? Because you better.
There's been a lot of trust, a lot of trust exercising in this film, just because there's 11 actors and that much more crew. And yeah, I think you nailed it there. It's been, in terms of independent filmmaking, quite an endeavor.
Yeah.
But for your character, and because it wasn't originally what you thought, and the writers took the story where it needed to go, and then along with it, your character, which is sort of a lead throughout the whole thing. You're a consistent player in the story. We talked on the phone about your concerns with Birdie, and so Shelter being about a near future active shooter situation where there's an app for it and you can play bingo. Birdie is the character that plays heavily along with that app. And we chatted a couple times and you said,
Yeah. It was I think my concern was that when I saw the script, I was like, wow, I got a lot of lines. Nailed that audition. But there's a bigger responsibility when, you are a face that's going to be seen a lot in a project, first off. And then, I was already coming into this a little bit of a newcomer to both the community of HFC and in Hawaii filmmaking, as well as just as an actress. And so there was a responsibility on me I felt that to make sure that I was living up to expectations. And then when you go on to a topic that is so touchy and so, important and serious, and then having my face be kind of the representation of a character that you don't really particularly like, it made me a little nervous. There's going to be the potential, especially with how online we are and how connected, there's a potential for the message to be disconnected, to be misinterpreted, to be disliked. And I think all of that starts a conversation, which is the most important part. And I'm very comfortable now, I think, because of all the conversations we've had and because of the space that you guys have held and created for that open dialogue.
Right.
There isn't any doubt in my mind that even if the film sucks, which it doesn't, hopefully, but even if it did, there isn't a doubt in my mind that this was worth it.
Right.
Because it's an explorative experiment.
Yep.
From the beginning to the end, this whole process is new.
Yep.
And I think choosing a topic that is this volatile just gives it even more to become,
Right.
It's a big opportunity.
And we're all in this together, essentially.
Yeah.
The start of it was, let's do this as a collective.
Right.
And so even if you are specifically singled out as I kept saying villain over the phone, but it was the negative character. Her story arc isn't something...
I don't think we want to be Birdie.
Right.
And I
And
think
representing that with all of us behind you.
Yeah.
And the message we are conveying is important. We got you.
It's definitely felt like a safe place, which is, I think, the only reason I've been able to get so involved.
What's the passcode?
2234.
So I actually wanted to... How are we doing? I don't even know what time it is. Have we been talking for an hour? 35 minutes? This feels like a good time to give her a little teaser on her part specifically. But I have to load it.
A little nervous.
Not the whole thing, just by the register. Yeah. Remember your part reading from the iPad? Okay.
Oh my God.
Which is interesting because it is I think we got to drop the quality. I'm not getting great internet over here. I did?
Yeah, it was already at 720. It went to 1080p.
Thank you.
I got you.
The fact that you're a comedian and this specific part is relevant to what we've been talking about.
Hey, that's me. Mom and Dad, I made it.
So, and the back, a little bit of the thematic history of Shelter is actually that it's a dark comedy. And your character, I think, has those opportunities to stop watching it. We're not at the party.
Sorry. I'm like seeing myself on camera is interesting.
Look at my eyes so that I can just stay here because it's too much of a teaser for you. This scene is actually really great that we can talk about your comedy, your acting, and Shelter with this one scene. Takes a robust editing team, which we have.
It's weird being
Thankfully.
I feel like when you look at yourself and hear yourself on camera, you're so biased to all these
Why?
things. Well, because you're looking at all your insecurities.
You're looking at you 100%.
Yeah, regardless of how you're performing, and that's the differentiation or separation from being an actor in front of the camera
versus
behind the camera, where like
Yeah.
when you're directing, you're so aware of all the little details and then the overall performance.
right.
But I have to separate that. I have to be like, all right, it's less about what does my nose look like on camera and more about how's my character doing,
That's what I was thinking about your nose, actually. I was going to talk about the nose.
Really?
No.
I was like, my God. I have my grandma's nose. I love it.
We're getting there. We're getting there. It was loading super slowly. That was because my the internet I chose isn't reaching over here.
I have a hotspot.
Here we go.
Hey, girl, that's me.
Should we turn the volume up? Yeah, on here.
She's right, unless informed otherwise by law enforcement or foes. That's
I actually added that line.
Or
and
phones?
phones. Yes. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
So I'm producing Shelter and I read through the script and I was like,
Great pause moment.
that nose though. I read through the script and I try as much as I can to remain creatively removed. But considering this, it was important to us that it was near future and the dialogue we were creating between phones and technology now informing everything about like our day to day. I was like, you have to add the line where she says law enforcement and phones, essentially. Hopefully the audience will see that.
That's ballsy.
That's a great one. All right. So this is your co-actor, co-actress. Actor or actress? Which one? What's
I say either.
either? And she's, I guess, the good character. And then we have your character.
Look at my face.
Thank you. Birdie, there is a yellow level active shooter alert in this area. By policy, we'll be locking the doors at this time. We ask that you remain calm and shelter in place at this location. By sheltering this place of business, you absolve said business of any responsibility for your safety or liability should you suffer a gunshot or otherwise harm this location, nor is said place of business liable for any post-traumatic physical or emotional effects that you experience in the future. Standard disclaimer and arbitration clause apply. Thank you for your time. And please enjoy your condition yellow special, which today is 10% off on gluten-free pastries.
Interesting.
So
That was a mouthful. Can tell you that I was really running out of breath at the end of that.
how do you think you did?
It's good. I mean, I know that it's so interesting seeing it from the other side because I know when we took the first cut, it was interesting because any other moment I wasn't really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I have to say so many words so quickly. And it could be comedic. It's serious. It's this weird mix of so many different things. But I don't know. I think I just kind of shut off because I don't want to judge it from
Out of
Morgan.
context for the whole thing. Yeah.
Like we still have like 2 more weeks before our next shoot. And that separation I have to, for my own mental way of how I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
I can't be connected to it.
Yeah. So I hadn't.
But we went with the first cut
That was the first cut.
That has to be.
I can't remember.
because I botched it.
Did we only do 2?
We did 3.
3.
The second one, I immediately, when I started, I was like, I was wrong.
So I have to say, I hadn't read that part of the script where you start reading it really fast, and
So many words.
it was not. It was an on-set reality for me. And as I was listening, and then you started doing that, it made complete sense. Because think about all of the commercials
Yeah.
that they have to run through this
Right.
legally, basically. And as it will be revealed throughout Shelter, your character is very much into
Rules.
rules and
Red
consistency.
tape is real for Birdie.
And there were a couple actors, at least with the material that we caught, that their lines, once they were saying them out loud, like really got me. They're hilarious. And that yours was one in particular that
It's an interesting line where I don't know if I can see my character as funny right now.
Really?
Like maybe when I see the full thing,
in context.
because of the emotional journey I've had to take to get over some of the serious stuff that we're talking about, and because I stand very differently, I think very differently than Birdie does on what's going on. I mean, I actually, when we had, I mean, are we getting into serious stuff? Like
Sure.
that? Yeah, when Hawaii had the active shooter alert go out, I mean, it wasn't like I got a text message, but I got several text messages from friends
Yep.
who said there is an active shooter in Diamond Head, which is where I live, and it was real. My reaction was not mature in the way that I thought it would be.
Right.
My reaction was, well, I should take my dog for a run. And I got my dog, I put his leash on, and I was about to head to Kapiolani Park to do our regular run.
And that's where it was. Yeah.
And that is exactly where the shooter was. And when I took it more seriously and found out where it was, because you live in a bubble. You think you're safe. You think you're in this it's about me world, and that can change as soon as you don't have any control of when that changes. You know. And I actually called the family that I babysit for, and they live right next door to the houses that burned down.
Yeah.
And they were apparently on a run and dropped to the floor because they heard gunshots.
Oh my gosh.
And they saw, people being pulled out with blood, and the officers and all these things that really happened. And when I was on the phone with them, that's when it clicked. It was hours after. And it took that serious reality of like, this is not a joke. This is a real event that had serious consequences, and that detrimentally touched this community. And then to be performing in a film that's touching upon something, it became very heavy.
Yeah.
And I remember I called you afterwards. I don't know if it was the same day or a couple days after, but I needed to process it. I needed to discuss about the weight of my face representing a character that isn't taking this seriously.
Yes.
The fact that we're affiliated to a topic that is now very real for our community. It's heavy, and I think it needs to be discussed, but it's also creatively, you have to keep an outlet open. You can't restrict things from being created just because of fear or because it's a touchy subject or because it is scary.
Right.
So I don't know if it's funny to me, and I think that's okay.
Yep.
I hope it's funny. Yeah, I do hope that there's good comedy that comes out of it because I love the chuckles.
Yeah.
But damn, it really spooked me.
Yeah.
I think I've had to emotionally separate myself from real world stuff, what we're talking about, my character stuff, my real reactions.
One thing we touched on earlier was when you tell a story, you lay the foundation, you do all the work, you're there in production. And then you didn't?
No,
I thought it was really obvious.
paying attention. I was like,
Then you then hand off your story to the audience member, and that's perhaps the most scary part of it is you've done all this work, you've put in the time, you've cared so much about it, and then you screen it. And then what's worse? No one remembers it. People react by it.
People make me a meme. That's the worst.
That's
If I become a viral meme,
that's the worst.
listen, I'm kidding. It's not that serious. It might be. I don't know. It depends on
Policy
what
girl.
clip they use. If they
Yeah,
did
yeah,
the
yeah,
clip where you paused it, that's awful.
We'll try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perhaps like the third, if pre-production, production, and then editing is the hardest things. The fourth hardest thing is then trusting your audience with your story.
Yeah.
And it's tough to put all the time and the work, and then you just let it go.
I appreciate so much having this platform to talk about it because I think otherwise you're taking a project at face value without any kind of context as to intention or thought process and the building of this baby, this piece that you're giving
Yep.
out to the world. And I think everything is more complex than it seems.
Yep.
There isn't just some, creative thing that was made and it was just for fun.
Right.
Like, I think everyone involved is too smart to create something dumb
Yep.
without some kind of meaning in it.
Yep.
At least in this project, we've got a lot of great minds working together.
So to lighten the mood a little bit, I have a question as a producer and someone who's on set all the time for an independent actor. I prefer actor.
I like actor, actress, whichever.
You like the slash there?
As long as I'm acting.
So with independent producing and filmmaking, so much of what you have to do, you're wearing two hats often.
Right.
So you could be the actor, actress, and the DP, So when you're on set and maybe you have the luxury of only playing one role, hopefully that's the case for you. When in tiny things, when you've like got Birdie down and you're ready to go and someone says like, could you move to the left a little? What do you do in those moments?
I think that was something that, I talked with you earlier about how I'm a visual person because I've been behind the camera.
Right.
In the way that I approach things.
Right. So getting that feedback.
Yeah, I need to see where my character's on screen to know if I should be doing certain things.
Right.
That's just because I'm so young at acting. That's the inexperience.
How do I look?
Well,
What's it look
it's less
like?
how I look and more like, am I coming across as how I want my character to come across?
Yeah.
Like I look down at an iPad a lot and I was doing this. And Jacob came to me and he was like, chin out, darling. And I was like, you my man. Thank you for watching my chin not be doubled.
We couldn't afford to chin duty.
I mean, don't worry. All the chins are great, but like, let's stick with one. That's my motto in general.
So you care about those like tiny things. So if someone says like, hey, can you move to the mark to the left a little bit? You'd prefer.
It's less about, being about me and what I look like on camera. It's more the difference between, especially when you're working with a director, having a communication that works both ways.
Right.
It's like when you're talking with anyone or speaking with anyone, you can't always talk at people. It
Right.
has to be you're speaking to them in the way that they understand.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about our like family that we've been working with. We don't have that much time. We have been, working together in a short period of time, separated by, vacations and distance. But there is a good communication. There is a safe space so that, if I'm told to move to a certain place, I trust that person.
The reason why. Yeah.
Like I trust the lighting to be doing what's right for Birdie's character.
That's awesome. Yeah.
In the moment.
Yeah.
I trust that the DP's getting the shot that's going to tell the emotional story.
Right.
And that kind of relinquishing of control has been a very interesting experience.
So as a
Very un-Birdie.
so as a independent actor, actress, your preparation for the character is prep work ahead of time. And so when you're on set, it's about like falling into that pattern and the trust with other people.
Yeah.
So because I've been noticing there's sort of different calibers of actors, and there are some that have to have everything like in the right balance when you're on set. And then it sounds like you might be the opposite, where you're like, I've done all this work. I know where I'm at. Tell me where my mark is. And if I've got an eyelash,
Yeah.
like snapping out of that
Yeah, yeah,
character
yeah.
isn't necessarily
I think
a no-go for you.
Well, the character I'm playing is a barista, and I think it helps that I am a barista at my work. So one of the jobs I do is make coffee for people in the morning and deal with people's difficult orders and sassy attitudes. If I get one more person who goes like this to me, one more
Yeah.
finger in my, are you kidding me? Like, next, sir. There's no way I'm giving you coffee while you're on the phone. But but like Birdie's
Get their
reaction
number
would
and
be
then call
like,
them back. Just
policy.
be like,
I've actually started saying, I have a line in the short film that's policy, and I say that all the time now because I've never used that word on a day-to-day basis.
yeah.
But Birdie's character freaking loves that word. It's like her law. But so I'll be at work and someone will ask for some drink. I'm like, I'm sorry that we don't have that drink. And
It's policy.
that's our policy. That's policy.
We can't put that combo.
Yeah, exactly.
latte
We actually
in
don't
milk.
do to-go cups for free. It's $1. That's policy.
You have to put it in the tip jar.
Yeah. But I think that method acting, I've kind of created an opportunity for me to practice lines and be a character that otherwise I might conflict with
Right.
in real life. Because I can promise you, if anyone's ever told me that's policy, I'm like ready to lecture them. Red tape is invisible. You've made that up. Let's be human beings
We'll work
connecting for a
around that.
moment. Yeah, like look me in the eye and tell me that's real.
Okay, Birdie.
I remember I went to the movie theater once and they told me I couldn't have my empty Nalgene. And they were like, sorry, that's policy. I was like, no, that's not policy. That's inhumane. I'm dehydrated. I need water. Well, we serve water for $18. I'm like, that's insane. I brought an empty Nalgene. I just need a glass of water. No, we can't do that because you'll fill up your drink with our beverages. No, I won't. I just need
With
water.
their beverages that are behind the counter?
No, like at the Ward Stadium, they have, or theater, they have like self-serve.
Yeah.
I'm like, watch me, lady. I'll go to the water, I'll fill it up, and then I'll go sit down and not get a UTI because I was hydrated. And then I got a UTI and I blame her.
Really?
Yes, I
True
was
story?
so sick. I
Has that gone in rotation through your comedy? Like,
have
know
I
Brian's
talked
is
mad
Wednesday?
crap about Ward? Yes. I've been on stage and said a few things about the woman who worked at Ward Stadium. Well,
That's
it's
where the
like,
small island
but that's what
component came
human
back in.
beings, the difference, you have like these rules and then you have human encounters that are completely cut off
Yep.
and we have no connection because there's this policy. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. It stops anyone from moving forward because someone somewhere made a rule that didn't apply to this situation.
Right.
But apparently it's restricting everyone from moving on with their lives and we're all getting UTIs.
The fact that you have that attitude and that experience and sort of like understanding the formula of, I keep saying formula, but comedy I think is such a formula. The human interaction limited by policy and Birdie being that 100%, that dichotomy is
I
so
think
good.
about that Nalgene situation on a regular basis when we're on set. I'm like, God, I am that woman telling me it's policy.
I think that's so safe though, for you to be able to play someone that is so against the grain for your personality.
It's interesting. I mean,
love
I
it.
commend the writers for putting me in this position.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. Great job.
For stretching your
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, that was the other thing I've been super impressed by. And as I'm watching the story being created in the edit, all the writers had different characters. And so I'm curious to know who wrote Birdie. It had to have been a combo effort.
I feel like
but
was Alex one of them? Because
I don't
feel like
know.
I talked to Alex about my character, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I wrote that." I don't know if that's true, but
I'm gonna have to do some
yeah, I'm intrigued to know who.
background digging.
I think it built. There's so many lines in the film that you can brush off as funny.
Yeah.
And then you really think about it and you're like, wow, that's the world we're headed towards.
Yep.
That way of thinking, that way of behaving, that way of creating a normal around something that should never be considered normal is terrifying.
Yep.
And yet it's so real. And I think the only way to stop that from happening is to draw attention to it.
Yep. Talk about it.
Yeah. And to make
a
it
pause.
seem not okay.
Right.
To be like, whoa, how can
Yep.
we, and you go into politics and policy and all these things, but really it's like human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's drawing a line between what's policy and what's wrong.
Right.
And like, how can we connect better face to face, one on one, and not just dismiss things and become desensitized like we are.
Right. What are you hoping is the reaction of the film? What are you hoping you can talk with people about? What's the conversation that you'd be excited to have with your parents or your friends?
God, showing my parents my things are always so scary.
Yep.
Because it's like anyone's like, I want to see your comedy. Oh, yeah, you weren't that funny. Like, okay, well, that's your freaking opinion. I don't have expectations on it. I think with any kind of creative project, you have to remove yourself from criticism and critique. I think if you did that, we would all be stunted from creating at all.
Yeah.
And so
Being brave to do it again.
yeah, and I think the fear will lead to so many future restrictions that I have to just be like, that was a baby I created, that I'm a mother now. There's a lot of responsibilities with that, apparently. Taking this too far. But the point is, like, I don't want to think about the future of it.
Yeah.
I want it to
Focus on it now.
I want it to be made.
now.
I want
Yeah.
it to be finished. That would be great. A lot of my projects have been stuck in post-production, and that stops the conversation from ever happening.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because of fear, where I
Yep.
just wasn't ready to what I wanted it to be.
Right.
And that's like the stupidest thing, to create something and be afraid that it's not good enough. Like,
yeah.
it's not about it being perfect.
Yes.
It's about it being the start of something.
yes.
And what about you? What do you want it to be?
Exactly this, the conversation after the fact. To have put all this work into it, not just from me personally, but I'm seeing everyone that's involved and what they're getting out of it, what they're learning. My hope is that we have as many conversations as we're having beforehand, after, maybe double. Because we finished, we did it by mid-April. That's my goal. And let's talk about it. Let's do another one where maybe not the same content, but we're taking the same strides, being fearless, and having conversations.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the true goal with this.
I think this is being done the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a project that is a new technique of starting to work together, collaborating, touching upon any kind of subject that could be easy or difficult, regardless of like, the fear, letting go of that and just doing it. Even like on our first day of set, when we had the blessing, I felt respecting where we're shooting, the history of where we are, working together. All of this is being done so respectfully and so authentically, but like, just, who's being involved, how we're all working together, how we're trusting each other, how many people were on set. Like, I was blown away
Right.
that I even had this opportunity to work together with so many great people.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think the most exciting thing for me is what we're doing in the future. Like, we're doing this cool project right now, but this is just the start. Like,
Right.
this is just the first tailor-made project to this HFC style, that's...
I immediately thought of.
I would like to audition again.
That was one thing I felt the week before our first weekend. I was thinking of Monday. I told Morgan Ritchie, our co-producer on this, I was like, I'm a little depressed because I know we have another weekend, but that roller coaster is slowing down
Yeah.
until it gets started back up again. And so I imagine, being that I've gotten a lot of good feedback from all the crew and cast, is I think that's going to happen. People are going to be excited to do something similar.
Yeah. And you're also, it's like you're opening a door for anyone who hears this or sees it to be like, wow, this girl just walked into this project, like, because of an email. I want to be involved.
I need to be sending more emails.
Yeah. I mean, I love your emails. But it creates this open doorway for anyone to tell a story. And there are so many incredible stories that people doubt because someone's not there telling them, hey man, wow, this story's got to be told. Like anything can be a story that is worth watching and worth experiencing for a stranger, because you don't even know how important your perspective is.
Right.
I mean, I think it takes one person to change your perspective. And if that one person is too scared or doesn't have the utilities to tell their story, like, what a disservice it is to the rest of the world. Like, more people should get your emails, Mary. I mean, gosh, I just think it's such a cool thing, and I'm so proud that I got over that little bit of fear to go audition for something and let go of that little bit of fear of what could this become, how could people interpret this, and instead just said, okay, I trust these people, I trust the process, and I want to be involved. And the fact that we're doing this all in such a small, non-existent budget, like, that's how films should be made. It should be ideas and people coming together to make stuff that is real and is goofy or serious and turns out awesome.
Yeah.
Even if people don't like it.
Oh man, they're gonna like it.
Yeah, my mom
It's gonna
will
be
love
good.
it. My mom will like it on Facebook.
My mom never called me. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Would have been perfect.
Yeah.
I got
Hey, Mom.
charged for Spotify though. To close out, I do have one burning question. Why Morgan Lee McDonald?
Why was I named that?
No. Why are you
That's it,
insistent
yeah.
on Lee?
You know what? Actually, not a funny story, but it is a story.
That was a phone call we had, and she was like, "It's Morgan Lee McDonald."
Well, that's my
It's like,
full name. I also think my dad, two things I have to mention. One, my name is Morgan, and it's a name that can be a guy or girls.
yeah.
And I never really thought too much about that until my dad told me the
Until you
story.
got
He was
mixed
like,
up.
Mom, I had a girlfriend named Missy. And I always thought that if I was in a business meeting, people would judge Missy before she walked in the room. They'd be like, oh, that Missy doesn't know anything, But if you heard Morgan was coming to the meeting, like, that's a name Morgan Lee McDonald. We don't know how to take that. It could be a man or a woman. Gender is just an imaginary construct. But the point is, I appreciated that thought process, that unfortunately we live in a world where being a woman determined how someone was going to react in a meeting with me. And I always thought about that. And then, all my siblings have the same kind of name where it could be guy or girl. And then I thought about how, I think my sister told me once, she was like, oh, I don't like my name. Growing up, I heard her say that. And I thought that was so bizarre. Like, how could you not like your name? My name's Morgan. Like, that's who I am. That's what's defined me.
My name is Morgan.
But it's like with anyone, like when you meet someone and you can't pronounce their name properly, spend that little extra time and try and pronounce their name properly, because that's who they are.
Yeah.
That was given to them. There is power in that name. And then why Morgan Lee? I think I went back to senior year. I was in Texas for my last year of high school, and I went back and visited. And one of my teachers was this wonderful lady. I forgot her name. Great person. But she always called me Morgan Lee out
Okay.
of respect.
Yeah.
And so she said, Morgan Lee, welcome back. And I felt this immediate recognition and appreciation and respect palpably through my body. I was like, whoa, this woman respects me enough to call me my whole name. Why don't I respect myself that way?
Yeah.
And so I try, and I've always been the new kid. So anytime I meet someone now, I try really hard to
Morgan
get their
Lee
name
McDonald,
properly,
yeah.
to introduce myself as who I am. Like it matters.
Yes.
And I think it does.
I figured it was important, and that's why I have waited until now to ask you.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's your middle name?
Michelle.
Mary Michelle.
Mary Michelle Baghdadi.
Baghdadi. I mean,
Baghdadi.
I don't think it has to be that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah.
But also, if someone wants me to say their name properly,
Yep.
I'm going to try as many times as it takes.
Expect
I
it in return,
apologize
yeah.
if I butcher it the first 2 times.
Yeah.
But I've gotten pretty good at remembering people's names. And it's
a nice
because I
margin.
care. So. Introduce yourself sometime. I'll try saying your name.
I'm getting the all clear from
light.
Greg. Yeah.
That's
Permission to land. HFC, this is your captain speaking.
Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle.
This is your flight attendant speaking.
Exits are this way.
And we're wrapped.
Nailed it.
I was on a Southwest flight recently to Hilo, and
Great place.
the flight attendant was struggling. And at the end of the flight, he went, "Get off."
Yeah. I've said that before. Not on an airplane, though.
But everything, I can't remember what he said leading up to it, but everything before that was so funny. He was like, I'm looking for a red coat. And then a couple minutes, he was like, "We found it." And then he said, "All right, this is your flight to Maui." And we were like, "We're going to Hilo." Yeah. And then he was like, "Just kidding, it's Hilo." And then at the end of the flight, he was like, "Get off." All 20 of us got off. It was...
I once got off a plane and I was like, why am I in India? I thought we were stopped. It was like one of those connecting flights, and I thought I was
Were you
going through
supposed to end up in...
not North Korea. I was going through South Korea.
Wait,
And then I got off and I was in like India. And
that's not a mistake you can easily make.
Listen, I had purchased a flight early hours, got into the airport. Turns out I had purchased a different flight last minute, and it changed the layover. It was fine.
Did you end up
India
getting
was
to
like,
where
you don't have a visa. Why are you here? I was like,
Like,
I
you
just
let
gotta
me
go
here.
to another place. I'm just stopping by. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Yeah. Then I was on another flight from Honolulu to Seattle. What is that, 6 hours? And the pilot got on the intercom. Is that what they're called in an airplane?
Sure.
The intercom. And he goes, "That was the 3rd worst flight of ever." And I was like,
Rude.
that's not something you advertise
Don't say that.
to your customers after the fact.
I once
Like,
sat on
we
the
got
flight,
there, that's the point.
and the guy sitting next to me was the son of
You're fine,
the
don't
man
worry about it.
flying the flight. He was like,
This is my dad.
he was like, my dad's flying this plane. Yeah. He had a lot of secrets to tell me about the flights.
You're like, at this point, he's doing this.
We had a weird. That was one of the crazy.
Hey, Marie. Good to see you.
I like that shirt.
She's super stylish.
She's going pee.
Really? You know that for a fact? No, she's grabbing the cameras. It's code for 10-1, but don't tell anyone that. Yeah, flight attendants these days.
Do you have any jokes?
Nope.
I have a joke.
I had one from this weekend. I already forgot it, though.
I have 2 jokes. You want to hear them?
I'm trying to remember. Yes.
All right. Why didn't the skeleton go to the ball?
I don't know.
Because he had no body to dance with.
Oh.
I know. Yeah. Relatable.
Have you seen Ellen DeGeneres'
Yeah, relatable.
the first 4 minutes?
I mean, that's what I'm just talking about.
They're super good.
The
I feel like
reason
a
it's
lot of it
funny
was like,
is
I'm
because it's all
Ellen.
relatable
And then she was like, then I got out of the shower and I couldn't get to my towel, so I had to do the bath mat scoot.
So the sneakers trying on, listen,
Yes.
that's how I try on sneakers too. You're like, yeah, can I do this in it? Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, these will be great.
Murray, have you seen Ellen DeGeneres' Relatable the first couple minutes? Relatable? Ellen? It was like 2 years ago. Oh, it's so good.
What was the other one? It was like,
It's really good.
Aunt Jeanette or something. There's a comedy skit. It's on Netflix.
We're going to wrap up soon, but yes. Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. But anyways, the whole hour show is all about tension. The reason it's so funny is because she talks about stuff that's serious. It builds tension because everyone's sitting there like, whoa, this is getting really serious. Like, I came here to laugh. I really want to laugh.
And
then
you're not letting me do that.
you give them little snippets of stuff to laugh at. And at the very end, you still have built so much uncomfortable tension that by the time you say something really funny, they're like, oh my God, thank God. Like, finally, something funny that is okay to laugh at that doesn't make me stand out in the crowd as the one inappropriate person.
Ray Romano's
Oh, no.
right here, just around the corner, is really good.
I'll have to check it
He
out.
does like 2 comedy specials, and the Netflix guys, they track him. So he's arriving to the stage, and then he does his spiel, and then he goes to the same venue, but like right here, just around the corner. That one's really good. And then, of course, John Mulaney, Comeback Kid, is super good.
Well, leave some comments below if you think this was entertaining and we should do more of these.
Please, Mom,
Yeah, slash mom.
and my
Hey.
grandmother-in-law.
Yeah.
Do a what?
Outro.
Outro.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Morgan and Mary. Oh,
I'm forming it in my head. She's distracting me.
sorry.
We've been really stoked to do this. Thanks for letting me throw it on you last week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I specifically want to thank Greg and Kali'i for creating the idea to build this platform where we can talk about things and anything and talk story. Thanks for your time. Thank you for your time, Morgan.
Thank you for having me, Mary.
Morgan Lee McDonald.
It's been an absolute pleasure. being
I'm really
here.
stoked to sit and talk to
Yeah.
people.
Also, great work on the film. You've been kicking booty as a producer.
Thank you.
I think
It's really my team around me.
listen, your emails, top notch. Very ending always makes me laugh. There's always some little
They're called Maryisms. It's a thing now.
self-proclaimed
That is a Morgan Ritchie thing.
copyright.
Yeah. Do you have a napkin?
I do. Did you need? Oh, for my contract.
But
I thought you
seriously,
really needed a napkin.
thank you to Kali'i and Greg for this idea and setting up the space and this awesome podcast setup. I've been calling it a video cast though. We've got a Red and a Sony. Yeah.
Vlog. Oh, Birdie will be vlogging.
Vlog was like what we did with this photo. That was good. I can't even pull it up. But follow us on the HFC public page and the private page, as well as the Instagram. And we'll hopefully be having more of these. Follow us with Shelter as we wrap up production soon. And these guys are fast editing. And we'll either have me, myself, and Morgan on the same thing with another person, or me with another person.
And to anyone listening who has a story to tell or totally doubts that, don't be afraid to get involved. I think there's way more of a supportive community out there than you know. And I personally would love to hear your stories. So I think more people should let go of that fear and be vulnerable and be authentic. Get involved.
I love that. Yeah, show up and do good work.
Also, like, share the stuff that you think matters, whether it be watching a video and you disagree with what you're saying, or start a conversation. I think everything lasts forever online, but it doesn't really matter unless you're actually saying something that you really think.
Conversing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would love to hear people's opinions of this film, whether or not you like it or not. I want to hear what you think.
Yes.
And then I'll just turn off comments if it gets too bad.
Filter it.
Yeah.
This wasn't going to be called Fire.
This project?
No, just
Oh,
kidding.
I was like, that makes no sense.
The festival?
Oh, yeah. That didn't go so well. But can you see it with the camera? Just the two of us.
I hope that's the screenshot.
In front of three cameras.
There's a lot of cameras, man.
Yeah. I haven't looked at them. This whole time I've been like,
Oh, I've been looking at them like
I've been avoiding
Specifically
eye
this one.
contact.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked for the next one.
Thanks for listening.
Kuli, come back from
Anytime I do
Japan.
comedy, I
Stat.
always end with thank you and you're welcome.
I just end with, this is your captain speaking.
I like that.
I really do.